Today, man, we got another wonderful conversation. But first, let me tell y'all, as I always do, STEM Media Live is brought to you by the STEM Media Network. That's right, STEMmedia.com. Content designed to empower your STEM journey. So go there and get exclusive interviews, podcasts, videos, and courses are on the way. I'm telling y'all some courses are on the way. We're working that out to empower your STEM journey. Go to STEMmedia.com today to get your free 30-day trial. And guess what? It's not just a website. It's also an app. It's also a Roku channel. So we're on Roku now, y'all. Did you know that? Jabril, we're on Roku, man. Cold World, thanks for the thumbs up. Yeah, so go ahead and check out the STEM Media Network today. But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let me go ahead and introduce y'all to our guest of the evening. Our guest of the evening is none other than my man, Jabril Muhammad. He is the Director of Engineering at Original Man Scientific, a science and technology startup designed to deliver the advantages of research and development to your community. He is also the co-host of the STEM Files. Shout out to the STEM Files, which is also here on Instagram at the STEM Files, the voice of STEM talent for Black culture. He is a proud Philly native. Shout out to Philly. Yep, Philly native. He's young, energetic, charismatic. He has a love for the arts and a genuine desire to serve his community. Interesting fact that we're going to get into a little bit is that Jabril was homeschooled for 7 years, from 2nd to 9th grade, where he received a unique, eclectic education and gained interest and a passion for STEM. And so I need y'all to do me a favor. That's right. Get the hearts coming. Get the hearts coming. Give me the hearts. Give me the love. Because right now I'm about to introduce to some and present to others. As you give us the hearts, you give us the love, none other than our guest for this evening on STEM Media Live, Mr. Jabril Muhammad. So let's get the hearts. Yes. Boom. It's on you, Jabril. We with you, man. We with you. Boom. There he is, man. Hey, the hearts are going. The energy is live. It's all on you, Jabril. Welcome to STEM Media Live, brother.
What's going on, beloved? Peace, Brett family. I'm happy to be here. Oh, the name was dope. I like how you did that, bro.
Hey, listen, man. Listen, it's only going to go up from here because you are actually on STEM Media Live. This is something that I am happy to make happen. Y'all do me a favor. Give me a thumbs up in the comments. You see my man Tyreek. Let me know if y'all here. Everybody good. If y'all happy, give me some thumbs up. Let me know. Hello, you too. Dr. Mary Payton. Shout out to one of our past guests, Dr. Mary Payton. Hello to you. Oh, man, STEM Media Live. I tell everybody again, this is the place with some of the most inspirational and creative people in the STEM community, man. And as I begin to read your bio a little bit on you, Jabril, I can say definitely, man, there's a lot of inspiration there. There's a lot of creativity there. But before we get into all of that, let me go ahead and ask you our typical icebreaker question, right? And this is what we always ask our guests. We ask our guests to give us a random fun fact about themselves, something that you probably wouldn't expect after reading your bio.
Okay. All right. So I like how you threw the homeschooling in there. Big shout out to my moms and pops, sister Kimberly, brother Kyle Muhammad. So I'm going to start off with that homeschooling, kind of segue into a fun fact within that. So as you mentioned, I was homeschooled for 7 years, 2nd to 9th grade. During that time, I'm so thankful because, my parents made sure that the things that I was good at and interested in was a part of my curriculum. My mother actually started a homeschool program and group that was catered towards the Black community, because we found a lot of times, at least during that time, there weren't a lot of Black families, at least homeschooling, and those that work on the outskirts to bring that in. So I'm very thankful for that. And when it comes to the arts, I actually was a former violinist, and I had the pleasure of being an all-city violinist for a year or two when I was during time.
Dang.
Yes, sir. And I also dance.
You dance? Oh man, listen, you learn new stuff every day. Yo, that's the beauty, man. So here's the thing for you, Jabril. I actually was homeschooled too for 2 years of my education. So I was homeschooled in kindergarten, and then in 6th grade, 6th grade, I was in homeschool. And just as you pointed out, the thing about homeschool is that you don't have to be constrained or confined to just how the curriculum is set at a larger school. Like you can basically customize it, whoever sees your parents or whoever, for whatever like your bents are. And that's what it seems like for you, doing the violin and all the arts and the dance and everything. Is that true?
Yes, definitely true. You know, a lot of times when you're in a school environment, you're kind of at the expense of either how fast the teacher is going based on someone that may be going faster than you, or someone maybe at just pace.
Exactly.
Myself, if I needed more time with something, my mother made sure I got afforded that time. If I was speeding through something and was done my coursework at 1 p.m. that day, I was done at 1 p.m.
You was done. Like, let's do something else. Yeah.
Right. So the ability to like not only do coursework but also visit museums and play on basketball teams and go apple picking and and be dance, these different things, meteorology program, like so a very eclectic and well-rounded experience. And I think that sometimes people don't understand how much goes into homeschooling when you do it right.
Word. Well, guess what, man? I think a lot of people, given the times that we're living in, are getting a little bit of a taste of that homeschooling piece, right?
Right.
Yeah. And it's like, again, like for some people, it's like, yo, this is the way. In fact, I know people who just went ahead and pulled their children out of the school they were going to. It was like, yo, let's just rock this out at home. Let's keep things rolling. Shout out to the parents who have embraced the challenge, because obviously it served you well. It served me well for the time I did it. And so that's much love, man. Much love. Shout out to some of the people. Y'all, if y'all don't know, I see several people in here. Kim, Road to PhD. Shout out to you. We are with Jabril Muhammad. This brother is a young director of engineering, man. Just seeing that title alone is impressive. Shout out to everybody. Super Mom Kim says, come on and represent, brothers.
That's my mom.
Oh, shout out to Mom. All right, so she was doing her thing. Right. My homegirl Nikki is in the building. One of my role models in this game. So y'all, this is a wonderful time with Jabril. So let's talk about the beginning, man. Let's talk about like how you first discovered like STEM or like engineering as something that you were interested in, right? Because for me, I didn't necessarily think it was my interest early on. I kind of realized it later on. But for you, did it start early, or what exactly was the process for you falling in love with it?
So, again, it goes back to that homeschooling. So just painting a picture for everyone, before actually being homeschooled in second grade, all I knew was private education. So whether, growing up and still, in Islam and still Muslim myself, I was at a private Islamic institute before being taken out for homeschooling, and before that, another private school. Ever since I can remember, I've always had a, proclivity toward, STEM, whether it be crystal growing kits, model trains or different models. When it was a tropical storm that actually hit the Philadelphia area several years ago. It was hurricane had been a tropical storm in the Philadelphia area, and I was so intrigued by the weather patterns and also the destruction, believe it or not, around the city. So I had my mother drive me around town, around Philly, see in
the storm, like during the storm?
No, afterwards. I just wanted to see the trees and all the leaves.
Okay. Yeah.
Like science is not only super dope, but also has the power to really change society overnight.
Right.
So growing up and, loving science and math and being in different programs, it wasn't until I went to high school I really knew engineering. So I went to George Washington Carver High School of Engineering and Science in Philly. And knows about that, shout out to my Enes family, from Philly. Mm-hmm. But that's a magnet school that looks to draw children now in middle school as well, who are interested in STEM and want to pursue it in some way, shape, or form.
Right.
So when I went there, I started really hearing more of this term engineering. And I found out, I was like, yo, so you mean to tell me this is a math and science sandwich?
Right. Math, like it comes together, like.
You know what I'm saying? Math, slap it on a piece of bread, take it, slap it on a piece of bread, and you put that thing together. And I was like, oh, this is
best of both worlds.
Right. But then I was like, well, why doesn't everybody do this? But I soon realized it's because it's hard.
It's not the easiest.
I'm finally understanding. So I went through my school there, took different courses, obviously, your calculus, your algebra, your geometry, your physics, chemistry, AP courses or whatnot. And then I think my junior year, I went to a camp at Drexel University, and it was centered around material science and engineering. which is what I ended up going to University of Pennsylvania for in 2011.
Okay, you can.
And that was finally when I kind of segued into engineering in that field in particular.
It's like, this is me. This is me. I love it, man. Y'all give Jabril some hearts, man. I love for giving us that giving us that delicious analogy of engineering being a math and science sandwich. Y'all give us some hearts and some love for that. I think that's dope, man. And that is too, man. That is something I realized too, because it's like I like science, I like the math, and it's like the problem solving aspect of it is really cool because you get to use those things as tools in your toolbox for solving problems, man. So I think that's pretty dope. Shout out to Boo, man. Shout out to my man BK. Teresa, good to see you. Yep. Shout out to Jenny. I get to see you. Code invite. I see you. So here's the thing, man. I am always wondering though, since you went to homeschool for like 7 years, that's a long time, right? Yes. And one of the things, and maybe it's a stereotype, you can maybe, demystify this a little bit for us. But when you got to high school, man, what was like the social adjustment, man? You went from like, being yourself all alone, but now you in this, like high school can be a brutal place to like get your feet wet. So what was that like, bro, socially?
So I definitely like that you mentioned that. And it's funny because that was actually the basis of my college essay for University of Pennsylvania. It was the transition from homeschool to high school. And it's funny, I don't know if you see him in the chat, my younger brother, Conveniently Brilliant, is here. And so we were both homeschooled together. We're 5 years apart, but, he was there with me. The most common misconception is that when you're homeschooled, you somehow develop to be some type of very intelligent but dysfunctional person in society. Yeah,
socially inept. Yeah.
Right. So the same way we have stereotypes on like what an engineer is, what a mathematician does, what a coder does. You have these things about homeschoolers, how
exactly
how to dress, and we're just weird. And sometimes those things are true, but in large, homeschooling is really what you make it. And for me, the biggest adjustment was obviously the pacing. Sometimes I felt like I was finished quicker or like ready to move on to something else. And sometimes I did feel like things were moving, quickly. And then I didn't understand, I grew up in a household where when an authority figure is talking, you listen. And I went to now this magnet school and I was in a Spanish class. I transferred sophomore year. So I was in a Spanish class with junior and seniors. I was the only sophomore, like only underclassman. Right. And I could not understand why that class was so rowdy. I'm like, Miss Reba.
You say, guys,
said, be quiet.
Calm down.
She said, be quiet once. I was sitting there. I'm like, why are y'all still talking? Like, it was really blowing my.
It didn't make any sense to you. Yeah.
I did not get it. So then also, I did not perform well on my very first test. It was like a review test. I took Spanish while homeschooled and everything. It was on a cyber aspect, though. I got a 22 on this first test.
Oh, wow.
And I remember this because it was at that moment I'm like, yo, I don't know if I can do this. It's too much. It's too many moving parts. The school is not as big. It's a big step. Now I went home and talked to my parents, and they was like, you got to do this. You know you can do this. You're built for this and everything. So I took my black self, went to that. I'm having trouble. Can I come? Can I come? And I was there after school every day. I lied to you not. I got below like 110 on a test after that. After that moment. So that was a big adjustment. Also, just the development of like young people, like seeing classmates that had beards and broad shoulders and full body,
looking like us right now. Like looking at us right now, and they in high school.
I'm 14. I'm skinny and everything. Like I'm real.
Listen, man. Shout out to the.
So I'm like, y'all look all real different. Everybody had friend groups already, so it's a lot of that to really.
Jabril, let me jump in real quick because I think I may have missed something you said just a few minutes ago. Shout out to my man's story. Y'all give him some love for that story. Did you say that you don't think you've made any less than what score since then?
So in that class for that year, I don't think I got less than 110 on a test.
No. Y'all hear my man said? He didn't get less than 110 since the 22.
Maybe.
Yeah. Hey, man, you talk about bounce back. Like, that's an amazing bounce back from a 22 to 100 plus. That's dope, man. That's dope.
I'm thankful.
And apparently though, like your self-determination, right?
Right.
Y'all, for y'all watching this, man, self-drive, self-motivation kicked in, right? Because one thing about high school is that sometimes we allow our peers in high school to have way more influence over us than they should, right? Like, it's great to have friends. It's great to, you know what I'm saying, find people that you really vibe with. But when you talk about a crowd of people who are rowdy and stuff like that, there are times when, unfortunately, that kind of makes individuals feel like, well, I guess I need to be rowdy too. Like, I need to start being disrespectful too. I need to get involved. But you decided, like, at that young age, like, no, I'm gonna go ahead and push myself to excel academically, right? So here's what I want to ask you, right? And here's the thing. Shout out to Young Gurus Math. My man is a phenomenal math tutor. You got to connect with this brother, Dana. Yep. But here's something I want to ask you though, Jabril. What is something that, if there is a person who is at home now, maybe it's through virtual learning or doing, it's in a sense, essentially homeschool now, that may be discouraged and may be like, man, what's the point of this? How would you advise that young person, or how would you advise us to encourage a young person like that, that may not quite see the benefit or the opportunity that they have now during this time of doing work and school at home?
That's a very loaded and powerful question. You know,
Yeah.
I don't even think that I fully understood in the moment for either the in-person homeschooling with my mother or the electronic and digital homeschooling via the computer, the opportunity that I really had until later on in life. I would really encourage us when we're dealing with that is like, you know, it's difficult. You're used to being around your friends, colleagues, being able to ask a teacher a question and have that. We're social beings as human beings, as mammals, right?
Right.
Now is the time to really understand that it's all you. You make your environment so those things that maybe deterred you or were a distraction, you know, don't necessarily need to be a distraction right now. And to remember that the same way you are enough in the classroom, you are enough now at home.
You're enough.
And where you were maybe surrounded by people who did not have your best interests at heart, you know, I pray, or inshallah, you are around people who care about you at home and are able to see those deficiencies and even strengths and cherish and applaud you where you're strong and help push you forward where you are, you know, not so strong. So really take your time and use that time to not only think to pursue your studies, but take that time to think about, you know, in this new normal, what is it that you can do to be able to provide something for self and also really lead a lasting impact for those around you, your age and older.
Oh, man, that's a word, man. Y'all got to give me some flames in the comments for that one, man. You are enough at home. You are enough in the school building. Y'all give us some love, give us some hearts. That is so powerful, bro. That is so powerful because, like, one of the things we realized, Jabril, is that, like, during this time, things that were comfort, things that were crushes, things that we were used to, right, are, like, taken away. You know what I mean? And so I think that word isn't just, like, encouraging for a student, which I asked you the question for, but for us, you know what I mean? For young adults, career professionals, because things are different. There is a quote unquote new normal that we're dealing with here, and realizing that it never was the stuff around us that we were sufficient, like we were enough here. You know what I mean? And so that's pretty dope, man. I appreciate you. Shout out to the people.
Yes, sir.
This is great. Thanks for sharing this. Shout out to my man, Dr. Iggy, came through, I guess, from last week. Conveniently brilliant. To drop the flames for you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Yep. And hey, if y'all are watching this, I want y'all to know that we are welcome your questions. If you have any comments or questions at some point, we will try to get those in this chat with Jabril Muhammad. He is the Director of Engineering of Original Man Scientific LLC, company that he and his partner Tariq are running at this time. We're going to get into that, Jabril, but I want to make sure I get a little bit of insight to your higher education, right? You went to UPenn, you said?
Sir. Yes, sir.
And you majored in, you said material?
Yes, sir. Went to University of Pennsylvania, graduated with Bachelor's of Science in Material Science and Engineering in 2015. Got you. So I wonder, what was that class for you on the higher education level? Because you talked about, you know, Spanish and stuff on that lower in high school. But what was that experience in college like when you first ran up against that wall? And you was like, yo, like, I'm gonna have to step this up. This ain't Kansas anymore. You know, this is something that, you know, I think about today, you know, because you could have never told me, you know, even though I mentioned the thing about the 22 in Spanish, like in large, that was really the only instance at that time that I was really struggling. So you really couldn't have told me that school would become something that would not only be a struggle, but would actually give me some anxiety. Like going to college, regardless of the school. But for me, particularly from my understanding, my experience in an Ivy League institution, you're talking about everybody who comes there as a freshman is a star in some way, shape, or form. And
somewhere, because you in the UPenn. That's no slouch in school.
Right. So somebody is, and then you're talking about, it's not like, okay, you're a star and someone else is a tree. No, we all stars, and some of us just might be the sun. Somebody is like a shooting star. Somebody, So like everybody shines a little bit differently, right? And you see peaks and valleys on what number one means around the nation and around the world. So kind of coming in and really being, if that 22 was a slap in the face, Penn punched me in the mouth. Like a few times.
That was real,
right. And I'm so thankful because it taught me primarily, I say this to a lot of people, it taught me about who I was, you know, who I was previously, who I was currently, and who I really wanted to be in the future. You know, it took me some time, freshman year, sophomore year, junior year, to really get a handle on things because I had a hard time, you know, bouncing back, a less than a good grade here, a less than good grade here, maybe a failing grade here, and starting to like shy away from certain things academically, you know. But you know, I met my, you know, I was able to bounce back, but I also met my best friend and, you know, best man, you know, in my wedding 2 years ago at Penn, you know, as well as other friends and colleagues who really mean the world to me today. And I'm so thankful. And I knew that I was there for a reason, you know, and just the curriculum in and of itself as well, you know, material science and engineering, you know, going back to that, you know, the real reason why I decided to pursue that is when I went to that camp in Drexel, I was so intrigued by this. Some people say, or at one point it might have been considered like a subset of physics and chemistry and solid state chemistry or whatever, but really as an innovative crossroad between a lot of the different fields, because as a material scientist or engineer, you understand the correlation between, you know, the structure of material, its process, how it was processed, and thereby its outstanding or end result properties, and thereby you can relate that to any field. An electrical engineer has to understand the electrical properties of the material they're using. The mechanical engineer has to understand the mechanical properties. The industrial, all of that, it lies in that crossroads. So being able to pursue that in school and learn about, you know, metallography, material selection, nanomaterials, nanostructures, crystalline materials, and one of my favorite classes, soft materials as well, and all the different areas that materials really span really broaden my horizon to, like, I can be of value if I put my mind into it in any arena as it pertains to STEM, so particularly engineering. So it was a big roller coaster. You know, I danced while in college at a dance group called Penn High.
What kind of dance you do, man? What kind of dance?
So I had been dancing since I was 13. I danced in a company called Philly Movements Dance Company, and was on their competition team for a few years. I, you know, was trained in, you know, traditional hip hop and urban styles, breakdancing, locking, popping, you know, crump. I also did a bit of dance hall. Oh, so you know how to, like, you know what I'm saying, like the LA. I also had some ballroom training as well, and I actually took that to be able to then dance and add value when I went to Penn as well. So a great experience in college, man. I wouldn't trade it, and I'm still learning from it today.
So you still, you know, here's a dope thing, man. Like, as you were talking about material science engineering, you talked about dancing, and And one of the things that I always like to do is find connections between like the things we study in STEM and like life, man. And you talked about how this is material properties and how, being able to know when certain properties are valuable in certain circumstances based on what you're trying to do. Isn't that a lot like us, man, when it comes to your inherent properties and your skills, your gifts, your talents, your inclinations, and being able to bring value depending on the circumstances or the problems that are before you. How have you found that to be like helpful, being a person that's so eclectic, right? What's that parallel there when it comes to all these interests?
I love that question. That's probably one of the best questions I feel like I've gotten being on a panel or anything or just So, I think that when you talk about things like being homeschooled, being Muslim, being a dancer, that well-roundedness, I think, really allows you to be able to relate to your fellow man. That's the best way I can see it. It allows you to put yourself in a position where you can really locate your purpose and match your purpose to that of someone else, matching wavelengths and frequencies, and thereby being more productive in whatever it is the goal is. Engineering is built on teams. I have a love-hate relationship with the Marvel franchise and how they show engineering with Tony Stark, because it's not sitting there as your brilliant self with your AI building robots all day. You know what I'm saying? At least I haven't seen it.
It looks cool, but it's not quite how it works out.
How it works. I mean, you probably speak to it too. You go into your conference room, or you're on your computer, you're doing things, then you got a meeting on Monday. You come in, somebody shares the stories or whatever, you talk about, the poem or, what the things that come up or whatever, and you go through the engineering process. Okay, how's this going to get done? Then we wrote contracts into it, and then we understand that we do things on cost, on schedule, and make sure that the performance is where it needs to be. That takes people. You know what I'm saying?
People, yeah.
Being in those different, having those different experiences, I've been able to align with and interact with different morals, values, backgrounds, to know when I meet someone, I typically have something I can relate to them with. And also the fact that mathematics is a universal language that usually gets me into certain rooms and allows me to communicate as well. So I'm very grateful for that.
I love it, man. That's crazy. Shout out to Dr. Ja. I don't know if you met Jalal Hayes. He's on here. He just joined the chat. Dr. Ja, shout out to you, man. He's from Philly as well, Jabril.
Okay, Philly boy.
And he's a chemist, right? PhD in chemistry. And he also has a great way of pulling that same analogies from when it comes to the elements, and the things, the periodic table and things like that. And so I just really love what you shared about that, man. That's something that I really resonate with. Again, Dr. Ja resonate with, and I think that is extremely important when you start thinking about not just the technical aspect of what we do, but the people aspect, the social aspect, right? And so along those lines, I have to ask you, and you mentioned this before, that you are Muslim, right? And being a man of faith, how have you found that, to benefit you? Because, in the minds of some people, I can't say everyone, and maybe not even necessarily common among our guests, but in the minds of some, right, there is sometimes a believed or perceived, friction between faith and science and physics and all that. So how have you thought it'd be a benefit for you, though, man? I would love for you to speak on that.
So, we just asked my best friend, Rolando Lyles, this same question on the Files a few days ago. And I'm so glad that you brought this
Still Files?
Because some people think that it's a contradiction to be a man or woman, person of faith, but also a woman of science. And so I am a Muslim follower of the most honorable Jabril Muhammad under the guidance of the Honorable Minister of Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam. And we understand that Islam, I taught to understand that Islam is mathematics. Mathematics is Islam. It can be proven at no limit of time. So, so faith is typically predicated on data. So, so think about your job. When we work a job, right? You understand or you feel as though, or you have faith that you're going to be paid every 2 weeks. Why? You have a contract or whatever, but because of the data that shows that on the track record that every 2 weeks I am paid, thereby I increase in faith.
That's been my experience. That's been my experience.
For the future, that I'm going to be paid as well. So when you understand that a lot of, what we maybe understand in faith or scripture is really a bearing of witness. I see God as the ultimate architect or mathematician and scientist. Everything we see in life is highly ordered, right?
Yeah.
And it appears or stems from some level of intelligence to put together. The first law of the universe is what? It's motion, right?
Motion,
order, right? You don't get order spontaneously from chaos. So when you start to really understand that, and then kind of marry that onto the creation story and everything, you really get a kind of a point of connection between those two stories, and you start to break it down to scientific terms. So it really is, for me, faith or my religion bears witness to the sciences. If you think about performing salat, I'm not sure if you're familiar with prayer, and we go through our different motions and everything.
For sure, yeah.
When you talk about the ability to communicate, and to a higher power, all of that is pushing blood flow through your body to the frontal lobe as you're hitting down. I'm going to your different position now with your forehead down on your prayer rug. All of that has a very real chemical response and result. So when you think about all that and how it applies to you getting into a heightened state of awareness, it's connected like that on a scientific level as well. So that's my bearing a witness today on the connection between faith and science, and this is a conversation we can have for a long time. So I don't want to keep rambling on it, but
listen, man. Hey, we gonna have to. No, it's definitely relevant, man. Being a man of faith myself, man, there's a lot that I see overlap, and again, I think sometimes the belief is that it means that you reject all data and you reject all science. And unfortunately, man, we have some pretty bad examples of people doing that in this day and age, but that is not what I believe, and obviously it's not what you believe as well. Like, there's actually a really close, harmonious relationship between faith and data, like you said, and science and things like that. So that's pretty cool that you were sharing that. I didn't even know that about the prayer even. So that's pretty cool. I never heard anybody break it down. I agree. I've never heard anyone break it down like that. So thank you for sharing that, Jabril. Definitely. Yeah. Again, y'all, this is Jabril Muhammad. He's the Director of Engineering at One Man Scientific. If you have any questions for him, feel free to drop it in the comments. But let's get into your professional work, man. I have right here that you are the right-hand man of Jabril Muhammad, right? He's also in the building. Shout out to Tariq. And you all have been running this company, this R&D company known as One Man Scientific LLC. So if you can, man, please do me a favor and just kind of break down the origins of the company. How did it start? What is some of the work y'all do? And then what is it like to be a director of engineering for R&D, man?
So a couple things. I got to do a quick correction. So it's Original Man Scientific LLC. You had said One Man Scientific, but it's...
Oh, my bad. Yeah, thank you. No problem. Thank you. Please. Yes.
So, man, it's so crazy. So Original Man Scientific goes back about 4 or so years and kind of into how me and Tariq met. So the gist of that is we have a mutual mentor. His name is Brother David Hassan, who was actually seeing both of us, matriculate in our Islam and just as young men. And he knew of Tariq's, being, doing some work in Virginia and everything, where they both were present at that time. And then in Philadelphia, he knew of Tariq's work and love of science, he knew of mine, and he connected us. We got to talk and said, Brother David, link me up. He called me. He said, Brother David, link me up. Said, you into science and everything. I had a proposition for you. And he was talking about, Original Man Scientific, which is, again, it's a R&D startup geared towards delivering the advantages of R&D to your community. And kind of the thought process of that is we feel that, and people maybe can attest to this, a lot of R&D or development tends to happen outside of where our people are, or marginalized groups. You don't see Google in nice town Philly or the Badlands, or Crenshaw in California, or certain parts of Chicago. You see it in those more sanitized locations where people feel like they're quote unquote safe. But we understand there's a lot of intellectual capital and ideas floating around in our people in different underrepresented groups, but they may not have the access, expertise, equipment, mentorship to be able to see those ideas come to reality. So we said, you know what, we're gonna try to put something together where we can install R&D maker spaces and R&D talent in these inner city marginalized communities to be able to leverage and have people leverage their own intellectual capital to be able to heighten the level of development in these areas, thereby pushing them into the future and making them add more value to society as a whole. So that's kind of where OMS came from, and then kind of get into some of the things that we've done when we
real quick. I see Tyreek said all over the place. Yeah. So real quick, Jabril, let me make sure I understand what you're saying too, because like R&D, research and development, you're talking about how that isn't really present in a lot of our communities, or communities where you see a lot of people who are, again, like underserved as it relates to these fields. Is the business model in a sense that, say a young man in the hood has an idea, he wants to develop this product, but he doesn't even know where to start. You come alongside this brother and says, all right, here's what we can do. Or is it more of a business model where like this young man or this young woman wants to go into a career in R&D, and so you kind of help them get the skills necessary to even like pursue a career there, whether or not they have a product idea? Which one of those is kind of more like, I guess, the business model, or is it both?
It actually is both. Where we are right now is building up the internal R&D to be able to have products and services to where so we can do the former. If you have an idea, we can assist you in bringing it to life. But we also want to be able to make you, as the one who has had something brought to life, or just one who is looking for employment or looking to be able to be an asset to their community, be able to work within the confines of Original Man Scientific, and thereby, leverage your schooling and everything and give value to your community as well.
There you go.
It's both avenues, if that makes sense.
Got you. Shout out to Tariq. He said both! Exclamation point! Y'all need to check them out, man. At Man. That's probably why I thought one man, because the URL. But yeah, Man site. I'm gonna put the URL back down there. Matter of fact, Tariq, drop the URL one more time, man. I'm gonna pin it when you put it in there. But yeah, go ahead. You about to tell us about perhaps some projects that y'all done that stand out.
So, as we were matriculating, the first few years, we were really finding our identity. And, we had a lot of conversations, we suffered from like, oh, this person is doing this, this person is doing that, maybe we should do this, do that. And anybody that knows anything about startups, they always say in those first few years, a lot of startups fail because they don't do one of several things, get enough money, enough support. But we knew that wasn't going to be us. And, the STEM files was a big part of our initial identity and current identity, in that we wanted to make sure that we showed not only STEM talent, because I think people do that, but showed Black and brown STEM talent in our various communities.
For sure.
And showed how not only we're doing these things, but be able to showcase these people so that those who wanted to connect will be able to connect, and we could broaden that network to eventually not only be one to service our community, but also help to work with OMS in some capacity as well. So we did that for some time and built on that. Then we took a brief hiatus. So we were like, you know what?
Yeah.
We really can get deeper into this R&D. So and out of that, we had NBERS. NBERS, Tariq will be on here just going crazy over NBERS. So that's the Navy experimental research station that we had. And that's going to be the main source of one of our flagship products, which I won't go too much into now. You'll have to wait for that. But
you gotta stay tuned.
These are all products that stem from the Navy bean. So what I'll say on that is, if anybody knows about the Navy bean, it's like, that small white or brown legume that you'll see in the markets. It literally says Navy bean. A very complete food, high in tryptophan, fiber, zinc, protein, all those different, good nutrients and everything. But we want to be, for the Navy bean and NBERS, what George Washington Carver was for the peanut.
Oh, right? Man.
And also in different areas.
Man.
A lot of things on the horizon for that.
Man.
And we also have a couple projects we're working on in the engineering area, and that's where the director of engineering role comes in.
Gotcha.
So, throughout my time in the professional realm, I've had, experience with project management and everything, kind of seeing things from start to finish, making sure that, if you bring us an idea, let's say if it's an app, if it needs to be prototyped or everything, I can sit down and really go over with, some of our team. Okay, this is the idea, whether it's on a napkin, you got a CAD model, whatever. This is what it needs to look like. And, I have an understanding of engineering where I may not be working on all the ins and outs, but I'm overseeing to make sure that the end result is exactly what the client wants. And anything that's an improvement has been aligned with, their desires. So that engineering aspect is managed by myself, obviously with Tariq as well as the chief operating officer in addition to the founder. So we have some projects in that realm as well.
Yeah. Listen, man, if y'all are watching this, Jabril Muhammad just said some serious stuff. Pretty ambitious. I love it, bro. I'm here for it. Give him some hearts, man. You said y'all want to be with to the Navy beam what George Washington Carver was to the peanut, brother. That is, you talk about, they say the big, carry audacious goal. I love it, man. That's like something that can continue to push you. And even as you continue to achieve, you're like, yo, there's still more. There's still more. And I love that type of ambition, that type of drive, man. So y'all give them some hearts of love. They got the hearts, man. They loving it. They love it. Yes, yeah. But Jabril, man, you speaking of Navy, I know it's not the same thing, but speaking of Navy, I just thought about the fact that you also are doing work for, let me see, the Naval Surface Warfare Center, Philadelphia Division. So you're doing some mechanical and in-service engineering agent work for Naval Surface Warfare Center in Philly. Talk a little bit about that work.
Right. You were breaking up a little bit, but I got the gist. So I'm going to talk about my side job now. No.
Okay.
I'll talk about that as well. So, by day, I'm a mechanical engineer and in-service engineering agent for the United States Navy, Naval Surface Center, Philadelphia Division, right at the Navy Yard in South Philadelphia. While I've been working there for about 4 years, I had some experience in metallographic failure analysis, in-service structural engineering, and
that's your boy.
Right now, I'm working in primarily naval ship fluid systems. So within that, I actually help to manage the procurement, inventory management, design analysis, inspection, validation of different systems involved in the different fluid systems on naval ships. Obviously, I can't go into too much detail because a lot of companies. Right. You toe a line with talking about what it is that you do. So, I work on some fluid systems and then primarily in sonar for, destroyer ships. So that's been an awesome experience. One thing about, Navy work is you start working on some really high level stuff as an engineer very early. I've had the pleasure of doing a lot of travel, doing whether it's inspections, doing, equipment grooms, doing certificate. I just actually did a certification in personnel training on the system. And that was the first time I had done that, as the manager for that thing, and it was a whole lot to take into account.
Were you nervous though? Were you nervous, Jabril? Like, were you like you weren't?
I didn't sleep. So we have to do quarantines now when we travel to places. So if we drive to, sometimes we'll do work in Virginia. If we drive down there, they don't necessarily have you do it. But when you're flying, you do a nice quarantine for 14 days. So I'm down there. Wow. I'm working and teleworking. He said Navy. Twice in our work.
That connection, man. I tell you, I'm
teleworking. I'm doing my regular work, but I'm also prepping for the job. So I was so nervous because it was like I had to do a whole presentation for personnel. Then, from the presentation, kind of go into, hands-on training with our system. And this had to be probably the most mentally strenuous job I had done because it was the first time me doing it. I'm there by myself, and it's different because it's COVID too. So there's an isolatory aspect of things, but I think I did a great job. I think the personnel on ship really enjoyed and got a lot of value added, and it's just a testament to sometimes you have time to prep, but there's no better teacher than experience. right? So
Right.
for you to get out there and do something, maybe muddle through it a little bit, you know, talk about what you know, and also never be afraid. Sometimes as smart people, we feel as though that we have to give an answer to something.
We can't be wrong. Like, we can't be wrong. We can't look like we don't know. Yeah. I got you.
I'm not a rocket scientist. So like, yeah. So how would you do this? Why is the temperature like this when you get to this rocket at this speed? As a smart person, I'm like, I feel like if I don't give him an answer, now I'm
right.
But
exactly.
Is not rocket science. So we have to grow to feel comfortable with saying, I don't know, or you know what, I'll follow up with this individual.
Let me look into that.
Get to that and get back to you. But then remember that we said we would get back to that person and do that. That shows a level of maturity. That shows that you care more about giving the right answer than sounding smart. Yeah. And when you talk about engineering, there's a lot of ethics that goes into engineering. I took a whole class on engineering ethics where we are responsible for human lives a lot of times. When you think about naval ships, it's a big thing. If things don't work right, you know, it goes back to you. You know, and you a structure, you work in structure.
For sure, bro.
Right?
I'm feeling everything you're saying. Everything you're saying right now.
You signed off on something, or you said
you're talking about people's lives. You're talking about your livelihood, even in the future, your reputation. Right. It's so much on the line, and I love what you're saying though, because it's not that this is supposed to paralyze us and make us afraid to move forward, but at the same time, there should be a seriousness and even I said, lack of fear when it comes to admitting when you don't know something and making sure that you take time to learn it before you just give a rash answer. Because man, I got examples of that, like not even examples, but one early in my career, I found myself at one particular time. Oh, the answer wasn't yes, but because of the sake of time and people, I'm like, yeah, and then come to find out, that wasn't really accurate, and it's very, very dangerous to do that. And oftentimes, it's the ego that's driving that, right? It's the ego that's driving that. You know what I mean?
That happened to me on that job. I answered a question in a meeting.
Yeah.
And then but I had to, in my mind, I was like, I wasn't sure, but in the moment, I was just flowing, and the meeting was going
right.
They asked me something that stumped me, and I was like, I should know this, and I answered it, and then I got back, and I talked to my team lead. He was like, "Oh no, it's actually this." So I was able to smooth it over and everything,
right,
or whatever. But you want to make sure that yes, even if you should know something, everything's a learning experience. Okay, I won't make that mistake again. And now not repeating the same things over and over again to the best of your ability. But we all gonna make mistakes, but we should pray that they're not errors where we're doing it on purpose.
Right.
Actual mistake, and we act and we learn from it. So.
Bro, man. Hey, shout out Coy. Good to see you, Coy. The fashion technologist in the building, Charnel. She is a nurse in the building. We got different STEM careers represented here. And Jabril, this is what I'm talking about, bro. This is the type of information, this is the type of advice that people need to hear, that we need to be real about, right? Because these are the things that could save careers, man, in the long run, that could save lives in the long run, man, that could really make us as a people just more solid, more authentic through and through, not just, falling into the temptation, which is a big temptation on social media, to just appear to have it all together, appear to be on top of everything. And so, no, this is real, man. I just love that you had the courage to even bring that up, man. So thank you. Y'all give them some hearts, give them some love, man. Y'all got to make sure y'all check it out. Check out oldmansci.com. Again, this is the company that he and Tyreek. Shout out to Tyreek. Biomedical science in here too. Yep, represent. They are running that. Man, I love the feedback. I love the environment and all that you are bringing to the chat. So, speaking of social media, Jabril, right? We want to talk about this, man. There we go. We want to talk about the fact that you kind of in the same, another industry that you all are in is similar to what I am also in with STEM media, and I'm talking about the STEM files you all show, and that is basically the STEM media industry. You know what I mean? The STEM media industry on YouTube, on Instagram, and the whole nine. And of course, this is a topic that's near and dear to my heart. We're kind of in the same space, and I just love what you all are doing. We've even had similar guests on the shows. But why do you feel, and you kind of touched on this before, but why do you feel it's so important? And then also, what is it that inspires you all to do this on top of all the stuff that you've already said that you're doing? You know what I mean? Like, it'd be different if this is your only job, but like, why is it important? And then what keeps you all going, man? That's what I would love for you all to speak on.
So
you to speak on.
That's a great question. First, a big shout out to you, bro, in STEM Media, because I know a lot of what you do definitely helps to inspire us and continue to do what we do. You know, and so you think, oh, well, the space is saturated. No, it's not. You know what I'm saying? Because the same day you do a guest in biomedical research, we got a guest in architecture, or vice versa.
Yep.
And the more more black we got, the better. You know,
I love it. I love it.
The more STEM STEM is big and as wide as, you know. If you had all the pens you had, you'd still be writing about STEM. But But I want to start off and preface it with this. When you see a picture, or somebody shows you a picture, typically, who is the first person you look for?
Yourself, if you're in it.
Whether you in it or not, you want to see if you in it, or if somebody like you is in it. And that's the baseline or foundation from which the STEM files comes from. Primarily, we realize that most companies have a media arm, whether it's a show or something, or they have some type of way to get their ideas and their ideologies, products, services out there. The STEM serves in that capacity with the things that we're doing. We'll highlight, and we always say, the STEM Files is powered by Original Man Scientific, and going to what
I love it.
Scientific right? So when we have things, I'll actually go into something that we have coming up under Original Man Scientific a little bit later. When we have things coming up, we use it there. Also, it's so important because we wanted to let people know, man, that in addition to how our athletes, our entertainers, people in business, doing things, we are doing things at a high level in STEM. And in various industries, also at various levels, whether you're, a student, a high school student, a college student, graduate student, someone in industry, someone in entrepreneurship, someone in media, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. People are leveraging the strong arm of tech, if you will, in so many different arenas that look like you and I.
Yeah.
And may Allah be pleased with our brother Chadwick Boseman, and he plays so many different roles. But, because we're talking about STEM, I want to hone in on the fictional character, but we know, there's a lot of truth in what was shown from our history. But Black Panther, right? Similar to the Obama effect, that when given a test before he became elected and after he became elected and did better on that test, imagine the impact. You got children crying over this, man, because he was so cool and he was wealthy. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
He had strong Black women around him
he was intelligent.
He was intelligent. Yep. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He dripped.
Everything.
He was eloquent, and he gave back to his community, right? So we have to be doing things on a similar level, in different capacities. We want to let you know, hey, you can do this too. You know what I'm saying? The late and great Nipsey Hussle, he invested in
another one,
and STEM, before he was murdered, and his co-worker space called Vector 90, where he was trying to his community and young people in the STEM fields to be able to further, lift Crenshaw in that area. So, this is a small token of our appreciation to all the STEM giants in our community.
Yes.
We just want to make sure that you're being highlighted and people know what you're doing so that you can not only elevate yourself, but other people that man, I've been looking for a RN. I've been looking for a bee scientist or someone in apiculture or whatever. I've been looking for a doctor or someone that's been meeting all these things.
Yeah,
find
that's
it from the show. So
No, that's real, man, and that's why I think it's so important, man. Like you said, it's nowhere near saturated. Like there's so much that needs to be highlighted. STEM media can't do it all by itself. The STEM files can't do it all by themselves. You know, Black in grad school can't do it all by themselves.
Right.
I mean, the research, you know, like all that, right? All these stories on top of just the career paths that are possible for people who are coming up behind us. All that needs to be elevated. And like you said, man, I always saw it just as prestigious as someone in, you know, going to the league or someone that's in entertainment.
Right.
Like it is one of those things that we need to highlight. But yo, check it out. Jabril, I almost had like a quick little heart flutter real quick when I looked at the time. I was like, yo, this time flew by, bro. Like we only got about 3 minutes or so left. So I saw there was a question. I'm gonna let you answer that. Pavelli said this. I'm gonna say my answer, but one, tell us how you all select guests for the show. If you can fold into that answer, though, what we can kind of look for, go ahead and plug what y'all got going on and answering that question. But then lastly, give us some parting words of wisdom, man, which I know you have for us to move on with, man. So go ahead and do that for us.
So as far as getting on the show, you can definitely follow us at The STEM Files. That's pinned right there in the comments. DM us if you are interested or have someone that you feel as though, you know, would be interested to be a guest on our show. We also, you know, scan social media for those in our community doing great things in STEM. You know, we're selective in that we want people of a certain energy, people doing things novel, or just people that can be authentic with a story. You know, I've learned, you know, through my job, different speakers, senior executive service or whatever will come in. And the one thing they always said is a good leader can always tell a good story. So whether you feel as though you've done a whole lot in STEM or not, we want to hear your story and how and then make it relatable to someone out here that literally needs or is going through what you're going through or going through something different, but hearing your story is going to help them move forward. So, you know, it's really simple like that. You can DM us, you know, and we always are looking to, you know, and we will DM you if we like, oh my God, it'd be dope to have you on the show. Like, I want Doc on the STEM file.
Hey man, I owe y'all a visit, bro. I owe y'all a visit.
Yeah,
it's done.
We're gonna make that happen.
We're gonna make it happen. Yeah.
So that's that. Also, I do want to highlight some things coming from Original Man Scientific. So we have coming up is a 9-week course, and it's invention and innovation workshops presented by Original Man Scientific, where Tariq and I, as well as some of our colleagues and partners, will be taking young people aged 8 through 18 through what it means to and how to go from to capitalize on your intellectual prowess and your creativity to create inventions and innovate to be able to eventually bring something to market. So going through like prototyping, manufacturing, you know, what is that whole process, you know, and we thought about it, said, you know, in this time of, you know, working from home and schooling from home and virtual learning, you know, what better way to supplement a curriculum? And parents are always, my mother is a teacher by trade as well, in addition to being a homeschool. So I always hear the stories about, oh, the students don't have this, don't have that, or I want my child to be involved in this, and we're at home. So we wanted to be able to fill in that gap